UBC, inspiring Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Well, a very good morning. My name is Ugandans. Welcome to UBC TV. Good morning, Uganda Extra. On this day, it is the 21st day of this month of December, this year 2021. What a lovely day. And of course, here is where we are just counting a few days to Christmas and also counting a few days to end the year 2021, start 2022. Bracing ourselves for January 2022 when schools will officially be opened, and also the plans to open the economy in this country of Uganda. Now, away from all that, to just remind you that COVID is still with us, let's get vaccinated. Government has rolled and launched a mass vaccination campaign for everybody wherever you are. Please make it a point, make it a date to get through Christmas and the festive season when you have received your jab. Everywhere that it is being administered, make sure you go find one. Now, back to the conversation here on Good Morning Uganda Extra. Today we will talk about Kenya and of course the issues in Kenya, and two very exciting guests that are with us in studios this morning. With me here is Mr. Tulu, Mr. Tulu Herbert, Mr. Tulu, and he is the chairman for the Pan-African Congress Kenyan chapter. You're very welcome, Ndugu Tulu.
Thank you so much.
Happy to have you.
Thank you so much.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, Tulu is with us here. Together, Tulu is Mr. Orlando Simba. He is the ED of the Pan-African Congress, also the Kenyan chapter. Karibu.
Asante sana.
Happy to have you
Nimeshukuru sana.
in studios. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, of course, together with me here is Ndugu James Mututa, like we are every day. Welcome.
Yes, good morning, viewers, and good morning, Uganda. And Karibu again.
Okay. How are you managing? It's festive season, Mututa, on your part.
In fact, yesterday I was wondering, how did the Africans begin this issue of Christmas madness?
They did. How they began is possibly what we can't explain. But they're there. they are into the madness already.
Exactly. So it has become a really commercial venture. It's a big deal. And even with the COVID, I hear some leader somewhere is being accused of having locked down the country, but for him was enjoying Christmas parties. So these things are real.
Okay.
But like you said, the most important thing is now to be cautious as we celebrate, because COVID is still with us and maybe more is still coming. So it is important that as we celebrate, we adhere to the SOPs. Let's not be derailed in the happiness and the celebrations, because at the end of it, it is the life that we need to be able to celebrate more Christmases to come.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Now, let's get to the issues. To our viewers out there, we have colleagues and comrades here from the Pan-African Congress, and of course coming from a neighboring country, that is the Republic of Kenya. They are here with us, of course, today. As we look into Christmas, we know very well that our sister country, our neighboring country, Kenya, will be getting into the polls next year. The date is set for August 9, 2022. When you look into Kenya and what is actually happening in Kenya, when you get an opportunity to see TVs in Kenya, and of course the news in Kenya, there is elections, I beg your pardon, the campaigns are in high gear of who wants to take over from President Muigai Kenyatta, whose term will end next year after that election. And we're seeing now, of course, there are the names that are very famous and common in Kenya that we expect shall take over from President Muigai Kenyatta. But without being partisan and because they're Pan-Africans, we just want to look into the issues of Kenya, of course looking at Kenya at a glance, to tell us what the situation looks like in Kenya, and what the rest of us as East Africans should take pride in, or should consider, or should look at when it comes to Kenyan politics. I'll start with you, Mr. Chairman Tulu. Kenya is getting ready for elections in August 2022. we'll see. And we do not know who will take over from her, President Muigai Kenyatta. But of course, that is what is in Kenya now. What is the situation like, and what should the rest of we in East Africa consider?
Thank you so much. I would want to start by first and foremost appreciating our Ugandan brothers for the welcome that they gave us, and more importantly for having been supportive all the years we've been in this movement. Then back to the other key issue that must be addressed is about the COVID-19 protocol or the rules. It's important that at all times, as people who come from this region, we observe that. And more importantly, if it is possible to have the vaccine, have the vaccines, and if you can also have mask, have the mask. Then back to Kenya, we are in very, very interesting situation in our country currently, and it's important to mention that 2022 will be a very, very determining season for us as Kenyans. It's important to mention that there are two leading candidates in these elections, and the focus will be on Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga and William Samoei Ruto. If you look at what the two are representing, majorly they are about economic issues. Then I'll also go further and say that give to the two have tried. However, the current issues in the country that are facing Kenyans are, one, how do we overcome the negative ethnicity, very important to Kenyans, and number two, how do we change the dwindling fortunes of the Kenyan economy to something that can take us to the next level, and importantly, how do we then work with our fellow East Africans. So I think these are the key issues that we are going to focus on in these elections, and I would want to say that though IBC has not officially opened the campaigns,
the program, yes.
But just to say that our key leaders are on the campaign trail, which is against the IBC Act. Is unfortunate, but you all know what is happening, and we expect IBC to, in a very, very humble way, just to let them know that they are failing Kenyans. So I would want to say that there are elections that we are going to focus on keenly, but then for us as Pan-Africanist, whoever will win, we expect that person to work with a main focus of improving the well-being or the welfare of Kenyans. As Pan-Africanist, we are not supporting anyone, but it's important that key issues that we believe in as Pan-Africanist, one of them being the unity of Africans, very key to us and very dear to us. The other one being the integration, and we would want that whoever is going to win the elections to ensure that that is captured in their manifesto or in their blueprint. And lastly, how do we then overcome what I had mentioned earlier, the negative ethnicity? How are we going to work with our neighbors, Uganda, Tanzania, South Sudan, among other nations? To us, we believe that if we focus on those key areas, we are going to develop as a nation and as a region. And those are the key issues that we are going to focus on and possibly ask them if we meet them. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Let me talk to Simba here. Ndugu Simba, I thank Chairman Tulu, President Tulu here of the Pan-African Congress Kenyan chapter, of course, for his thought on that. Now, so many analysts have actually analyzed and concluded that Kenya is one country that is united on national issues. When anything comes, we've seen this happen to our brothers and sisters in Kenya. When you had the Garissa attacks from the Al-Shabaab, when you had the Westgate attack, when you had the attack on Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, and quite a number of those other attacks that you've had, you could see Kenyans coming together without them remembering I am this or that, is the ethnicity that he's actually talking about. But whenever it comes to election time, is when Kenyans actually remember I am Kikuyu, I am you know, they remember all these tribal and ethnic extractions, which at times keep tearing Kenya apart. And Kenya, being Kenya as it is, we've seen its history, we've followed it, and so many people, when it comes to such a scenario, they get worried. You are a Pan-Africanist, and of course, when we talk about Pan-Africanism, is you want to look at issues beyond the borders of Kenya. What would be your thoughts for the next election to the rest of us in the region and on the continent?
Thank you very much, comrade. Let me first of all start by extending my salutations to the comrades from the Pan-African movement of Uganda and the global Pan-African movement here. The Kenya-Uganda relationship is something that we really need to move back to the independence years and see how Uganda at that time really shaped our politics. The politics in Kenya was modeled and guided by Comrade Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, who was a student here, and he was keen on bringing on board Kenyan politics other comrades who had studied in Makerere here in Uganda. We can mention comrades like Burundi Nabwera, comrades like Masinde Muliro. Those are the core people who shaped Kenyan politics, that when Jomo Kenyatta came out of prison and came to KANU, those are the people who are there in championing for this. So our politics and the relationship between Kenya and Uganda in terms of the socio-economic developments that we are seeing in Kenya was one. I think the problem comes when now we start focusing on what divides us as a people and as a region. We have tried as much as we can to relook at everything that was left here by the colonialists, but we are really struggling with the issue of statehood and borders. It makes us see each other as Ugandans, Kenyans, Tanzanians, and so on and so forth. And that one has really worked for the Kenyan issue, to be specific. It has really worked in terms of promoting the kind of ethnic issues that we see in Kenya today. In the region, we have been looking at how politics is happening here in Uganda, in Tanzania, or any other part of East Africa. We find that most of them, in as much as there are some ethnic undertones, but in Kenya it is so prevalent. We need to recognize that the current president, Comrade President Uhuru Kenyatta, has really worked towards having Kenyans look at each other as comrades and adopt the issues of being one country. In 2018, in March, as we all know, the president was able to sit down with the former prime minister on the famous handshake, just to reaffirm the new path that Kenya was taking towards having one country, where we can have our political differences, we can have all our differences, but we look at ourselves as Kenyans and are people who are connected to a particular destiny. We also need to, I think also the challenge has been that when there are issues in Kenya, we don't find much engagements from neighboring countries, especially through the East African community and our community. I really think that if we can have more engagements from the community, where some of our comrades from Kenya can learn how some of these issues are being handled in Tanzania, how they're being handled in Uganda, to inspire a different kind of conversation in Kenya, it can be something that can help us adopt a different kind of engagement in politics that does not incline much towards ethnicities, but can look strongly towards helping us build a stronger and cohesive nation.
Okay, very important. What about if there was no handshake in March 2018, the handshake that we saw at Harambee between the two principals, President Muigai Kenyatta and Raila Amolo Odinga? What about if we didn't see that happen? What would Kenya look like today without the handshake?
We all know, because if you look at our elections before that particular handshake in 20, let's say from 1992. Okay. The ethnic mobilizations towards elections. This has always been the factor that divides Kenyans mostly. Exactly. Because you find that a particular group mobilizes particular communities, and then the other group mobilizes against another community. And after elections, the healing process takes quite a long time. So it means that we cannot heal within the 5 years. So we take 5 years to mobilize ethnically, and then we take another 5 years to try and heal. It doesn't happen, and then we do it again and again and again. In 2013, Comrade President Uhuru Kenyatta was able to sit down with our current Deputy President, Comrade William Ruto, and they were able to heal the ethnic differences that were there between our communities from our Kalenjin communities and Kikuyu communities by then. And as we all know, things turned out to be different. The issues that were there before President Kenyatta and Comrade William Ruto had that agreement, those issues, most of them were settled, and communities were able to heal. I believe that by him extending the same to the former Prime Minister, especially when you understand that the differences between communities like the Central Kenya communities and the Nyanza communities, we have had ethnic differences since 1960s until 2018. So by President Kenyatta trying to heal these ethnic differences, it gives us hope. We now believe that there are comrades within the Kenyan political ranks who are seeing the problem that we are having and who are willing to do something about it. And we believe that what he did in 2013 and what he did in 2018 is the right path for us to take in terms of finding ways of healing ethnic differences in Kenya. Okay. But what is happening is that we are not, most of our political leaders are not yet mentored towards bringing the country together.
And actually, that's what I was coming to before Muteta comes in here, because we now see this could be Comrade Kenyatta's legacy. That we saw him do this in 2013 when he came actually with a pact with the current president now, Samuel Ruto, and seeing it again in 2018. Now that it could be, it speaks volumes to Comrade Kenyatta's legacy. But we see leaders after President Muigai Kenyatta also doing the same and carrying it on, because we are healing something that we've struggled with for so many decades and so many years. And are we looking at ourselves fostering that, the posterity of Kenyatta's legacy for that reconciliation? Do you see it coming after Kenyatta?
Yes, I'm seeing it coming, but it is something that there's a generation that's going to miss in it. Because we need to understand that if a generation takes around 20 years undergoing the same political ethnic mobilization, they become leaders under that ethnic umbrella, and then it is a shock. What Comrade President Uhuru Kenyatta did came as a shocker to most of the politicians that we have in Kenya, because some of them
see it coming.
Yes, they didn't see it coming, and then some of them mostly used to ride on that ethnic balkanization and differences to rise to political leadership. So by this coming through, we need a new kind of political mentorship, some Pan-African mentorship that President Uhuru Kenyatta has been trying to do. But unfortunately, within our political circles, most of us still don't understand, and they still cannot see it. That is why I started by mentioning that the politics of our region now is going to be very, very important in terms of helping us understand how we need to navigate the kind of ethnic politics that we have in Kenya. Uganda has a role to play. Tanzania has a very big role to play. We need to have comrades now from Uganda, from Tanzania, or from any other country around our region to come to Kenya. We engage some of these our leaders. We need to have leaders from these regions to come to Kenya and help our people understand the need for healing and togetherness as we are moving towards the 2022 general elections, even post-2022 general elections. Because if we miss it now, we never know when we will get a president who can just do what President Uhuru Kenyatta did. As you understand, it took how many years? 60 years, from 1966 to 2018, for us to be able to get a president who could risk and do what Comrade President Uhuru Kenyatta did. So how can we build on what he has started? That's now the question. If we can be able to build onto that, then it can build. But if you look at what is happening in Kenya today, we have other politicians, as I said earlier, who are still captured in that politics of ethnic balkanization. In as much as the president is trying to pull to this other side, affirming that we are one nation, that we need to pull together as a country, and we need to take a different path, we have our people, Kenyans, some of them are still stuck in that. The political mentorship among the civic education and political mentorship in Kenya is still wanting, so that now the masses can now understand what the president and the team around them are trying to do. So if we can come together, especially now, and help in doing that, maybe maybe in future we will not relapse into what we used to be.
Ndugu Maina, Ndugu Mtuta, you come from a community in Uganda that extends to Kenya, and there is a community in Kenya, of course, that extends to Uganda. And Ndugu Simba here says they need the neighbors. They need Uganda, they need Tanzania, and of course all the other neighbors and partner states to help and to look into their issues, and of course not looking at it just as a Kenyan affair. Now, from your own perspective, what do you think Ugandans need to do to be part of a positive election, a successful election, and of course a good electoral process in Kenya, not to lose what they've started to gain now?
And like indeed he said, a lot of these tribal sentiments are mainly driven, unfortunately, by the leaders. But the people who, and apparently Kenya is one country where assimilation would have been so easy, because the ethnic groupings there are so mixed. You go to a Rift Valley, you'll find that the Kikuyus, you'll find that the Kambas, you'll find that so it is unlike actually Uganda, where you go to a particular tribe and you find the people solid as a tribe. Kenya has done more in kind of assimilation in intermarriages, but unfortunately the leaders, like I put it, have been promoting a lot of this ethnicity, because as children, when you are growing up, you may not, it does not bother you to know whether this one is a Kamba, whether this one is a Kalenjin, whether this one is a Kikuyu, whether this one, but you're all children. I personally had time in Kitale, in Matisi, where I grew up, and we were playing football, all of us, regardless of who is who. But when it comes to politics, then this ghost comes up. People are identified either having a candidate, and a particular candidate from a particular group, from a particular ethnicity, and it goes that far. But like he said, I think for the neighbors, especially when we talk about the post-independence East Africa, we're talking about Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania, there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of bringing together the people in this community. It is possible that when finally the issue of the political federation of the region takes root, maybe some of these smaller groupings will finally be negated for the bigger good of the community. But as long as we remain in these small places, and now that for Kenya, the issue of decentralization has taken root, actually more than we have done it here in Uganda. That one comes with a lot of opportunities, but also comes with a lot of challenges. Who is going to be the governor in that county, and what's the background, which grouping does he come from ethnically, and who is he going to appoint from the other ethnicities? So I think finally, when we come to the bigger picture of the region and we go for the federation of the East African community, that is going to be one of the key areas that will help us, not only Kenya, but also the rest of the region, to avoid this this ethnic balkanization, as he put it, but also will create a wider view of how people will relate and how people will look at issues more than belonging to a particular ethnicity or coming from a particular political party. The other time we were saying that maybe lack of political parties that are also regional becomes a problem, because here you have some few people who come up with a political party maybe from one ethnicity, and then forms a political party and then market it into the national ranks. But if we had a political party that is both in Uganda, it is in Kenya, it is in Tanzania, maybe it would also help to bring up leaders who will look at issues at a more wider level and a more regional level than looking at issues as clans or tribes or elite groups. But like he put it, it is also important that the issues of what happens in Kenya or what happens in Uganda, what happens in Tanzania should not be looked at as only issues of course we have these issues of saying these are our internal affairs, fine, at a national level that's okay, but I think it is also good to look at them as issues that concern all of us as people of the region, but also the leaders to come together so that they can discuss issues that concern the people. You are talking about people who are living just across the borders. A bigger population is here, a bigger population is here. Now, even with the decisions that are taken at the national level, they may not, to a greater extent, also stand, because you are not going to stop people from going for their burials, for their marriages, for their, when they need to come together.
Okay. When we saw what happened in Kenya, post-elections 2007-8, and of course the promulgation of the new constitution in 2010, that of course was not received by all Kenyans. I think about 67% of Kenyans actually said yes to the constitution in the referendum, and we had communities that refused the constitution, but of course the majority had actually said let's get that way. They tried out their constitution in 2013, where we saw so many reforms coming in. We saw the hate speech laws coming in, which of course helped to shape the 2013 election. We went through that 2013 election. Now the coming in of the new IEBC that has been talking about here, after Chivuta's electoral commission that is said to have disorganized elections of 2007-8. Now, we've seen so many things happening in Kenya, especially on the political scene. Now, the latest one was the BBI. When the BBI came, which of course comes after the handshake at Harambee, to so many people, we the onlookers of course looked at it and said, maybe BBI is now the way to go. Because the name BBI itself sounds very good. It's Building the Bridges Initiative. And of course, not all Kenyans have embraced it. They've taken it to court and thrown it out, done all the things too. Ndugu Mtuta, did you think by actually casting again and castigating the BBI, that still puts Kenya in a very bad situation as we get ready for August's elections?
Maybe what happens with the BBI is also it came at the timing was a bit tricky. But when you look at the whole scenario, to me it's a good thing. Because when you look at the details, of course some people are saying it is making some people run away from reality. Some people are not considering the background from where we are coming from. Some people are just politically ambitious. Of course all those sentiments are there. But when you look at it, the timing was suspect in that people are thinking of the principles that are involved, that people are trying to make themselves relevant and create space for themselves now and in the future. But I think in all fairness, for me I would think that any effort that has been undertaken to peacify and make peace with neighbors and also create peace for the country must be applauded. Because at one point, Kenya was unmanageable. It was a big problem that one leader could not cross into the other area of the country and vice versa. So the famous handshake, and like he put it, is not the first time that we have this handshake. At least President Uhuru is known for peacemaking, and this is not the first time he's making it. And it worked last time. These issues of people going to The Hague and doing this could have even been worse, I guess, if it were a different person in leadership. But President Uhuru has tried as much as possible to make peace from within the country and even outside the country. You remember when they had issues with the Somalians? Somalia. Yes, so I think President Uhuru will have that legacy of having been a peacemaker in that country. But also the issues of the BBI, I think it was not also given enough time but also the awareness, what was in this package was not very known to many Kenyans.
Okay.
So no wonder it had all those gray areas. But at the same time, I think the high politics at the time could not allow it to have it looked at thoroughly. No wonder it had issues when it was taken to court.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
The BBI itself, it came as a very good initiative, and the recommendations of the BBI are trying to also actually talk about amending the Constitution of Kenya and talk about almost 13 chapters of that Constitution now. Do you think Kenyans actually understood the BBI concept itself? Because you talk about a Constitution that you got in 2010, and in 2020, you're actually talking about amending this Constitution that you've only given 10 years to work out. Did Kenyans really understand? And number two, Ndugu Simba here has actually talked about the handshake and how it has also brought this tranquility in Kenya. What about if it wasn't there? Maybe we would see Kenya running every day with the general security services, the general police, and maybe rioters in Nairobi and everywhere. But now we've seen Kenya go on, and maybe the disruptions have been with COVID-19, because yes, COVID-19 has actually given every leader now some problems in a way, trying to see how they can fix stuff. But do you think these issues that happen, the handshake, the BBI, and quite a number of things that happen in Kenya, they can be understood at that level of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, the president now, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, the deputy president, the Wetangulas? These people could understand these concepts. But do you think the Kenyans in Kibera, in Narok, in wherever they are, do they understand these things?
Thank you so much. I want to give it a different thought. One is to understand why the handshake came into place.
Okay.
So it is very important to mention that during that time, if at all you were staying in Kenya, it was chaotic. It was just difficult to have a normal life. And it's important to also mention that these were two leading candidates who all felt that they won elections. So, but we all understand that the president, Comrade Uhuru, was now declared the winner, and that is what the law dictates. So, and at that point in time, Comrade Raila did not agree to that. So, I want to give it to the two leaders that at times is important to disagree to agree for a better cause. And I think that that is why the two leaders thought, and to some of us who have been in that country felt that that one was very, very important as far as the development of our nation is concerned. Because look, at that point in time, nothing was moving on. Nothing was going on. People were not going to work. People were not going to hospital. People were not going to schools. Schools were closed. There was no food. You could not go anywhere to buy food. So literally, the country, the economy came to a standstill. And the two leaders in our country thought that they may have that power, but at times it is all in vanity. So they thought among themselves that let us reach at our own level and have a discussion around what should be done.
And I think that came just a few months into Kenyatta's second term.
Exactly.
Because the election was redone in October 2017, I think.
Yes.
Yes. Then a few months in March 2018, that had to come on, because it was now things had not gone well.
Yeah, and I wanted to say and remember that that during that time, like I've just said, that things were not moving. The two leaders felt that for the economy to move on, and that's why I do want to agree with my good friend Simba, that everything that happens in Kenya affects the region. You can imagine that most of your imports would pass through maybe from Mombasa all the way to Kisumu.
Kenya is our biggest trade partner from independence.
So whatever was affecting us was affecting you, not even indirectly, but direct. So that's why I want to believe that the philosophy behind the handshake was a good thing. And it's something that I would beseech Kenyans to accept. But I think like my good friend Mututa said, there might be some misunderstanding somewhere. And I think this one was taken by the political class who are affiliated to both the leaders, that is Comrade Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga and Comrade the President of the country. That the people who now surround them started using even some words that were not very, let me say, very welcoming to this other side of the divide. And I want to say that especially people that associate with the deputy president were not comfortable because now people were just thumping and things like that. But if you look at what was in the BBI, what the president wanted to do was that after having the handshake, the most important thing was now to kind of institutionalize that. Have now those 9-point agenda put into things that can be workable. And one of the greatest things that is important to mention at this point in time was about negative ethnicity and divisive politics. And we all agree that this is what brought all these issues. Now, how are you to realize this, some of these things? You realize that in Kenyan politics, it has been what we call winner takes it all. Winner takes it all, yes. Yeah. So how are we to sort out this? It is difficult. You can have all sorts of maybe ways of maybe discussing this. But based on what our leaders thought of, and many other countries have maybe worked with this model, was to have some few leaders at the top who could then support whoever will be the leader in terms of championing for the agenda of the country. And one of the key proposals I think that they had in that probably some of the Kenyans were not comfortable with was creating some positions within that setting. I think this is one of the issues that that people didn't want. That people didn't want. Yeah, especially the Prime Minister's post and the Deputy Prime Minister's post. I think this is one of the key issues that the people who are anti-BBI are not comfortable with. These others of maybe that we are going to police the judiciary and all these kind of things might not have issues. The key issue was that people looked at it the way Comrade Mutita had said, that the timing was suspect to some of our, to some of the Kenyans. Kenyans thought that having the handshake was not a bad thing, but the timing. And it's also important to mention that when we promulgated the Constitution in 2013, we agreed that there were areas that we were to work on. Some of those areas came into fore, maybe after 10 years. So there is no bad thing in amending the Constitution. You know, we should ask ourselves questions. Were we making the Constitution to work for us or Kenyans to work for the Constitution? So these are things that we should ask ourselves. If Kenyans felt that they need to amend sections of the Constitution to make their life easier, it's fine. So then the other thing I wanted to say that is important, because I've heard the president pronounce himself on this. The wish of the president is that it's just important to live or to have a united country, which to some of us we think that is a good thing, not only for Kenya, but beyond Kenya. That is the East African region and the entire Africa. So to some of us, we feel that the way Mutita said, that the process might not have been something that people accepted because of some of the political undertones that were involved, and some people felt that they were left out and things like that. If those things are sorted out, if people can be called in some kind of maybe something you would call a consultative meeting, people discuss some of this issue, then you go back to the main philosophy behind the handshake. It is good.
Okay.
Anybody who is opposing that thing, I think they are not opposing the handshake of the BBI. What they are opposing is the methodology of its implementation. I think that's what they are opposing. Otherwise, majority of Kenyans, it's important to mention that not all of us will accept that they are ready for the BBI, because again, some economists have said that some of the realities in terms of creating new positions will have some effect on our GDP. So those are valid points.
Okay.
But what are we supposed to do? Is to have a discussion around this and tease out issues that are not probably acceptable to most of the Kenyans. Okay. But as things stand now, I think that majority of Kenyans are not anti-BBI. They are anti the methodology that was being used.
And the timing, as Ndugu says.
Timing. And the other thing I wanted to say that is very, very important that Simba had mentioned earlier is that people must also learn from other comrades across. We've seen that from the region that at times we need all of us for some of us to realize some of these challenges. Take, for example, what is happening in Ethiopia. You know, you cannot sit and wait because it will trickle down to other nations. So like Simba says, it's important that all members of this region comes and supports. And that's why I want to say that senior comrades of the great Republic of Uganda, it's important that they also reach out to our leaders and support them so that we don't have a nation that we experienced in 2007/8 and recently. Okay. Otherwise, if we don't do that, I want to tell my fellow comrades of Uganda that 2022 is a do-die elections for Kenyans, because
it's a do-or-die election.
Yeah,
okay.
For Kenyans. So if you go and sit back, wait, that let Kenyans decide, they may decide, but it might have disastrous consequences to
but
the
not
region.
only Kenya,
yeah,
but
to the region.
To the region.
Yeah, and especially I want to say,
okay,
especially to Ugandans, they can be affected seriously. Like I said, most of your imports pass through the country. Now, if you are not going to come out and speak about some of these issues, you are going to likely be affected directly.
Okay. Our time is running up. We only have less than 10 minutes. Ndugu Simba, let's use 3 minutes to conclude this conversation. Like I say, it's a do or die. I am just worried about the hate speech. I am only thinking, can we go through this election without trading insults as Kenyans from the different political divides?
You see, we look at Kenyan politics in terms of what has been the problem. The problem has been, and I'm particular about the ethnic mobilization that has been there. Why is it that people think that if maybe, for example, I become the president, that I'm not fit in terms of my ethnic community where I'm coming from? Because people believe that if you come from a particular community and you get the top seat, then you only favor that particular community.
Yes, it's a time to enjoy.
It's a time to enjoy.
Exactly.
That was the issue in 1992 when we had brother comrade President Moi. It came to the fore in the year 2002, 2007. And that is why we ended up having the post-election violence of 2007. Because some people within the country felt that they were not part of the country. They were not part of the systems that were running the country. The same thing almost happened in 2013. Because it's only the former prime minister that maybe decided just to accept the results by then, even though there were issues. But those things came to the fore again in 2017. So I believe that in as much as in Kenya we might try to look at it in a manner that we do not want positions, but in the end of the day people fight for the same positions, then we're hypocritical. Because the reasons why we have all these tensions during election, all these things, is because the leaders we have at the top are jostling for positions, that it is one position. So for us to have peace, the mindset behind the BBI was that if we have maybe around 5 or 6 of these positions, it might deflate the tension that we always have towards
Everybody
these elections.
feels they are part of the system,
they are part
of the administration.
Exactly. So if that is who we are, if that is who we are, because that is what is happening in Kenya today, why is it that we cannot accept that and try to find a way in which we can work together with that moving forward? Instead of insisting that we only need one position, but when we are given an opportunity to elect a leader under that particular one position, we end up dividing the country much. That is something that I really believe that as Kenyans we really need to look into deeply. The BBI issue, I can remember our comrade deputy president gave a very powerful statement at the Bomas of Kenya about his thoughts on the BBI. Most of the things that he said there were extremely valid, and there were things that we could see the gaps that were there. So I think what should have been done is if our leaders could just sit down, look into what these issues that are dividing us.
Patch up the gaps.
Yeah, patch up the gaps.
Maintain the principle.
Exactly.
And go with it.
Exactly. So if our leaders could do that, then I don't think the kind of tensions we are experiencing in Kenya today would have been there even in the first place. But as Comrade Tulu has just said, if this is not handled carefully, the 2022 general elections, then it might be even worse than what we had in 2007.
Is that so?
Yes.
We need to prepare.
In case we do not handle it properly, and by handling it properly is, can we have conversations around this? Can we have conversations around what do we need to have moving forward? The president indicated the other day during the Jamhuri Day celebrations that he believes that the only way for Kenya moving forward is by us revisiting the issue of the BBI. Why? Because you can see our politics right now is moving towards
the BBI had come to insulate us against certain things which we are casting away.
Exactly. And now if you look at how we are, the trajectory our politics has taken right now, we are moving towards the same directions we were moving at in 2007 and in 2017. We have comrade brother Raila Odinga with his team. He's really trying to push the Azimio agenda that is bringing people together. But if you look at it keenly, you'll see that it attracts people from particular areas and particular communities. Same old story. The same if you look at our brother comrade Samuel Ruto and the Hustler team. The conversation is also moving towards particular community, same old story. So if we just sit back and believe that things are different, that we are one, the nation is one, things are well, but then if you look at it keenly, things have taken that particular kind of trajectory, then we are lying to ourselves. We had comrade when during the launch of the BBI, we had comrade Kabudi from Tanzania who came to Kenya, and I can remember the speech that he gave that day. He was talking about the role of the region, the East African community, towards de-escalating political tensions in the region. What are we going to do? What can we do as young people? Let's say if the other generation might find it difficult to inspire some of these changes. What about our generation? What about us? What can we do?
Time has run out. Ndugu Mtwitter, tuko na dakika moja tu hivi. Your final thoughts and we get out of studios.
Still, the issue of de-escalation of this high politics is the way to go. And for me, I believe, like he put it, the BBI is still very crucial. A number of issues that are in there, as highlighted, can be addressed. The unfortunate is that when these positions were created, and let's not pretend about it, people want those positions. The only thing is that those who were there didn't see themselves benefiting from that, Mfunirawa, that kind of. Then they said, no, I think instead of being, let's just leave it at that. But I think it was very possible that, and of course this was what Kofi Annan suggested, that instead of having one slot, let's create multiple slots where other people can, and interests can be accommodated. So that, but people are looking at it as maybe the President Uhuru is looking for a fallback after he loses the position, or maybe someone is also going to be taken there. But
if it brings peace, so be it.
Exactly.
People were even saying that the point that he has raised, I can remember initially after the handshake and when the BBI issue came through, quite a number of young politicians were alleging that Comrade President was looking at a fallback plan to be a prime minister or something else.
In somebody's government?
Yes, in the next
government, after being president.
Yes,
then he comes and,
And we've seen it happen elsewhere and people are happy. So
I am actually, I read the BBI in October last year, I think, when I just launched it. And I'm going to revisit it, see whether it's actually important to get back to that conversation, as President Migai Kenyatta suggests. Our time has actually run out, but I just want to thank you so much, gentlemen. Ndugu Tulu, the chairman of the Pan-African Congress, Kenyan chapter. Thank you so much, Ndugu Orlando Simba, the executive director from Kenya, also the Kenyan chapter of the Pan-African Congress, and of course, Ndugu James Mututa. We'll find time, again, during our Pan-African Fridays where we have enough time to discuss these issues, but just let you know that because elections are next year, we'll still have all the time to engage in the conversations of Kenya and to actually tell the people and the public to know what happens if we let Kenya to burst into issues because of the elections, and what happens if Kenyans actually go through a very smooth and seamless electoral exercise. How does that benefit the rest of us in the region? We'll stop here for now. My name is Jagana Semakola Ziksoka, thanking you and thanking my people in studios. Good morning, blessings, and bye-bye.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala.